Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sci-Fi Cinema. Already got people in the chat. And hello, Zombie Mouse. Welcome to the show. I'm doing okay, Zombie. How are you? Unfortunately, Gorilla's Random Thoughts is running a little late. He may not be able to be here tonight. He's having a little bit of car trouble. But we have two great episodes for you. The first episode is The Prince. If you want to watch along, the pinned comment has the link to the Cosme. So let's get this started. Our opening quote: absolute power corrupts absolutely, which is a problem if you are powerless. From Dragon with 70. Yeah, I believe he's home, but he's dealing with his car problem. Yeah, it'd be unfortunate if you inherited that entire warship of his. Yeah, he did break down, but from what he is telling me, there's a good chance it's not as critical as he was thinking at first. Yeah, it's a shame when they know you and try to shoot at you. Too bad they missed the regicide. Yeah, you don't really got any choice. Here, I'm putting you on TV so I can pay down, won't lay down. Won't be able to type, though. Oh, that's okay, Zombie. Hope you enjoy the show. That is not smart. They are not good co-regents. Well, that's going to be bloody. Still a very good opening. I'm gonna guess it's the only other survivor. You don't want to save him, kid. Well, that's what happens with political coups. Not bad. Yeah, that's always always train all your sons to be king, no matter how far down the line they are. How optimistic of you, Tyr. Already planning to get shot in the head. How practical of you, Hunt. Yeah, sure. Nice try, kid. You're not in a position to make a demand. You're in a puny little cutter. They're on the biggest ship on that side of the freaking universe. That is a fair suggestion. Who cares? Yeah, go get about 100 of your friends. Wow, they really weren't preparing that kid for anything his entire life. Can't fight, can't rule. What the hell was he being groomed for? A marriage? But always follow through. Good advice. Very good. Kill him 3 times. Well, at least the kid's right about that. You have to do it quick. Then Hunt will find another way to bring the planet in line. He makes it sound so simple. Oh, the traitor is awake. So your job isn't finished yet, you turncoat bastard. It's always the turncoat that survives. Probably. That's the smart choice. It's okay. He was a burnt asset for the nobles, and they're going to kill him anyway. Yeah, it's how it tends to happen. Makes you wonder why he actually had a third son. Pretty good speech. I'm sure the Andromeda wrote it for him. Hey, anything's possible. That is not a good deal. Yeah, human shields are never a good option. Makes it very easy for them to revolt.
Hey, what I miss?
Tyr and Dylan are co-regents to a dethroned prince, and they're trying to get his throne back. And of course, Tyr is selling them out.
Hey, everybody. Hit the like and follow buttons. Hello, Zombie Mouse.
How you doing, Teague?
I was just, I was basically doing my own version of the LDG. Like we just had, I left that link and I'll probably go back there maybe for a little while later. Just kind of hanging out in StreamYard lands with the other people from Saving Star Trek, where we make our evil plans to overthrow, the matriarchy.
Oh, so the normal.
Yeah, normal, boring, same old shit.
Hey, Bill. Welcome to the show.
Is that the outlaw?
Yep.
I feel like I just saw him 5 minutes ago. Outlaw Bill is the best. You should check out his chat.
Yeah, he does great karaoke streams.
as well as the Outlaw Bill Sports Network, OBSN 8, the Ocho.
Thanks for that, Jedi or Outlaw.
Thanks, buddy.
You would think so.
They seem to move. They moved on from the guy who looks like Jesse Pinkman, and this is their new young guy who's kind of a little too idealistic. Or have they added to the crew?
Oh, he's just a guest star.
Okay. Sometimes you win some, you lose some. Them using clothes from the real world and only changing them just a little bit is only just so much working out this week. His uniform's great though.
Yeah. And since he's the only one that's actually military, it works.
Yeah, the other guy's just blatantly wearing like a biker jacket that you could buy.
Yeah.
It's sci-fi.
Hey, Sci-Fi Nation. Outlaw Bill Sports Network, the Ocho. They do better ratings than ESPN. ESPN is embarrassing at this point.
Well, we're not woke, and we can also spend a long time not talking about the game while it's on.
That
You don't have to take their version of it, you know. It's basically the same thing. Like we don't pretend to be experts on football. We love football. We do our best, but yeah, fuck do we know? Our play-by-play guy is great. When we have the Padawannabe, we're sad. Outlaw Bill is going to go bare-shirted, or I'm going to do a face reveal based on the outcome of the Jets-Broncos game, is the rumor going around.
I hope you're ready for a face reveal in that case.
I think Outlaw Bill shirtless would probably win.
At Sci-Fi Nation, there's only one type of football. The other one's soccer.
Right. We're talking about, well, there's Canadian football, or as I call it, metric oppressor football.
At least he's honest about that point.
They're trying to be Roddenberry-esque. I give them credit for that. It's always kind of like it's the Pink Floyd Roger Waters analogy every time, right? It's like Roger Waters is no longer with us. We're not going to be the same exact kind of band, but maybe we could still be like pretty good in the vein of what we were.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, we could hit those old tones a couple of times.
Damn right, Bill.
The Outlaw fired up. Next week we have Jets Broncos. We have I think one game on Sunday, and the that we have the Sunday game, and I think we're gonna do Thursday next week. I'm not positive, but that's right. The Outlaw Bill Sports Network, OBSN, the Ocho. I'm thinking of calling my part of it "Wide World of Teague."
Does have a ring to it.
Or the James Earl Teague Show. It spells Jets.
It doesn't quite have the same ring to it.
By the way, we could corner the market on something. It's only like about 8 more days away. President Carter turns 100. Like we could have a Jimmy Carter birthday bash. Like, think of how few people will be doing it. We could corner the market on that.
You could.
Not unpopular. Merely ran into a much more popular guy.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah, but I'd say
I
this
have
one. Most
strong
people,
opinions about him myself, so I wouldn't be celebrating him.
I don't know. That might be the last election where people were like, if the other guy wins, that's okay too, and weren't that frightened. This is a pretty good set, although it does look like a like Canadian college campus. They're trying here. They're trying.
Yeah.
Woof. Woof woof on this set. Oh God. Disaster.
Yeah, that is a community college campus.
Yeah, yeah. Oh God. Oh, are they tracking in front of a green screen? Was that? Oh, that was the Cosme. It's just making the background look a little more fake than it actually. It's actually real. It's also partly my computer. We have become totally comfortable just wearing clothes in the real world. Although, what did he watch Commando before he came out for this episode? It's like, I have converted to a new religion, Captain. I am a Seventh-day Bennetist. What is that? I believe that Bennett from Commando is God. I too am a Seventh-day Bennetist.
Yeah, it was a standard for him, though.
It's too bad he doesn't have more of Bennett in him, and I'm sure Bennett would love to be in him. That's the way Bennett kind of was, and this seems to be Bennett's type of guy.
Yeah.
I guess this guy's faction or whatever, his alien faction is like remotely Klingon like, but they're a little bit over the top. Like, what's their deal? Like, they're reverse Vulcans with their emotions. They're like super emotional.
They are 100% Machiavellian.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I knew that. They have some. They can be charming and they can be nice, but they're like really underhanded.
Yeah. The only thing they care about is their own bloodline, essentially.
They come from a race of people too fucking evil to actually exist in any real space. But okay, this race would have exterminated themselves. But whatever, they reproduce prodigiously or something.
Yes. It's not abnormal for them to have a dozen children.
Oh, okay, that tracks with how crazy they are. Because we've seen them act pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Boy, that is terrible. That is so. They couldn't get a lower angle shot to just keep it with the hedge and keep the modern windows and just very mundane and ordinary brick building out of, I mean, woo.
Hey, Sis Dan, welcome.
Hey, sci-fi is just that.
Now we're getting to the good part.
Sorbo's always 100% into it. Oh man, the set or this location.
Yeah, it is a very unfortunate location.
Um, I'm
They
gonna
are doing
say
the best, and I believe they did film in Vancouver.
it's definitely, look at the brutalist architecture. Look at that, right? Pure brutalism. It's Ed 209s from RoboCop.
Yep. The only
Well,
time they feature those two Titans.
those are the worst guns. They are the wimpiest. They're just going with the anime Gundam kind of stuff here. They blew up a small copse of trees for this shot.
Almost like they planned it.
That was a decently conceived shot. That was fun, but I don't know if they're in touch with the idea that maybe they shouldn't be like upbeat and glib after killing like a whole lot of people. I don't know. But they were baddies, so
Yeah. There's just a bunch of goons and half dozen barons.
it kind of looks like they had been thrown out of Cobra but kept their uniforms and went around causing problems, doesn't it?
Yeah, the costume budget wasn't great.
I mean, our hero uniform is really good, and our co-star uniforms right away you can see the difference.
Yeah. They could only afford the one uniform at this point.
The thing is, at least his hero uniform is decent. The principal or leading guest star's costume is sort of terrible,
Yeah.
and not in that fun 1960s Star Trek way. But it's not that far away from it, so I mean slightly forgivable because it's so old.
Yeah, that jacket he has been reused a couple of times, not just in this show, but other lower budget sci-fi shows.
Somebody was cranking these out. This was once someone made the decision that this was an acceptable location, there was no going back, and they were never going to make this scene work. But it makes sense at least. He's they couldn't do better than the Burger King's crown, but the point taken. That guy is so huge. It takes a lot to make Kevin Sorbo look kind of small.
Yeah, they're both like 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah, that guy's like 6'6", though, right? I mean, if Sorbo's 6'3", that guy's 6'5", 6'6". We're talking like you're not going to make any problems at that nightclub. And he could start from my offensive line.
How convenient they had all that land and other properties just to give away. Okay, we have a second episode coming, Bunker Hill.
They did not give us enough time to read that quote and attribution.
Yeah, that's way too quick.
Especially if it was important enough to put up there.
Now they're never really that important.
It's kind of like the stupid like fortune cookie logic before an episode of Clone Wars cartoon.
Yeah.
Like, don't lose the war. It's like the most useless military strategies. His dress uniform works, but his casuals or whatever you want to call it just don't. It's just a motorcycle outfit. It's not slapping you out of it, but that was really common in 2000. That was a very common jacket.
Yeah.
If anything, time has improved this costume. I guess they couldn't, like, they just had to have somebody with costuming experience make the best calls they could rather than have a real wardrobe department. So, like,
Yeah.
everything has to come from a store. That's just the way it is. Because we've seen jeans on we've seen people wearing just black jeans on this show a couple of times.
Yeah. Everything is either secondhand or altered from Hot Topic.
Or they're combing every thrift store.
Yeah.
And he just has the faux. They bought like 25 faux leather jackets from maybe Amazon back then. It would be the beginning, right?
Yeah, that's definitely off the rack.
And it hasn't been. I don't have a problem with the fact they have to off the racket. Here's the thing: they don't work it up at all. Space 1999 was equally off the rack, but they especially if you were alive in the 70s to see it. It was Space 1999 was like right off the rack, but they did space it up. They gave them some space gear that was on their clothes that looked functional. They gave them like space wristwatches that did some stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His uniform is so bad he should be shoulder carrying his weapon just to distract us. Actually, that's not a bad idea. And on the left is my favorite character. She's pretty hot.
Yeah.
Not a very curvy woman, but she's very tall.
I know they were talking about something. I just couldn't concentrate on anything they were saying. I guess they couldn't afford to ever stick around for more than a day of filming.
They managed to get themselves a couple of very good-looking women, though.
Yeah.
To complement their regular good-looking woman. It's almost like they're cognizant of the show's shortcomings and they have a little bit of mercy on us, right?
Would Dylan have made a good Star Trek Federation captain? Depending on the era.
He would have actually been some. I would have liked
he's a little bit too military for TNG.
He would have been. Do you know what comes to mind for me? He would have been like if Kira's planet had a space navy, but they just don't seem to.
Yeah.
The Bajorans are like very xenophobic or some shit like that. We spent a lot of time on Babylon 5. I'm sorry, on Deep Space Nine without finding out about Bajor, except that they're very highly victimized.
Yeah, that's the only real characters that they needed.
Do we ever see one of their cities? They all live in like semi-rustic locations, right? Like the whole planet's Endor.
Toward the end, they get a rough picture of one of their cities, but nothing too in depth. It's definitely backwater compared to even what we have now, but they were pre-industrial when they were conquered by the Cardassians.
I think they're like Iron Age, right?
Something like that.
At least that's the implication. They hadn't hit the Renaissance.
Yeah, they somehow had light sail ships, but beyond that, they really didn't have anything to speak of.
So what do you mean they had like one freakishly advanced technology, but that was about it?
Yeah. They never got industrialized majorly. Yeah, it's just Dan Bajorans as victims were really their only point in existing.
Sith Dan, at one time or another, they stand in for every group victimized during the 90s. They are the Yugoslavians for a little while. They are other people after that. They're one group after another. And it's never the lightest of allegories either. It's usually just a little too on the nose sometimes with Deep Space Nine, which was one of the things I didn't like about it, which is why it's a good show, but it's not my favorite Star Trek show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they got away from the Bajorans a lot because of that.
To the point where when the Vulcans come to play baseball, we don't even want to go to the planet that has Earth-like gravity and is park-like and is exactly like Earth to play the game. We want to do it on the holodeck. Like, that's how
Yeah.
badly we didn't want to go to Bajor. You know, I got one question for you about that. I guess you've heard me ask this one before. Why didn't the Vulcans use their 5 times human strength to throw the ball like 300 miles an hour? Are their tendons only as strong as ours, and the strength is just as only proportionate to their skeleton, so they can't throw it that much harder?
Probably something like that.
1 in every 3 Vulcans will need Tommy John surgery by the age of 30. Because technically, they should have been able to throw a ball that had a sonic boom when they hit the catcher's mid.
Yeah, but could a Vulcan actually catch a sonic baseball?
It brings up so many problems. Like, you've got a God problem there, right? It's like, what if it can God throw a baseball so hard that even God can't catch it?
Exactly.
Ooh, she's hot. Although up close, in the face, she's looking a little weird looking.
Yeah, the bone spikes on the forearm do throw you off a bit.
Our aesthetic approach to achieve these aliens is to simply hire black people.
Well, he called her bluff.
There's our Jesse Pinkman wannabe. He spent a lot of time. He got his tips frosted for free. That was part of his pay. Now they're going to let us know this is
That's
only
probably
TV PG.
kind of funny.
Well, I mean, no one from this show, including Kevin Sorbo, is doing a whole lot. I hate to say it.
No, most of them were not exactly experienced actors when they got hired.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think a lot of them might have been like, we have some good fights and some good action scenes. Did they maybe make some stunt men into actors, and that's why they're bad?
Some of them.
Oh, what you're saying, we have a combination of problems.
Yeah. Because between Sorbo and Cobb, that's pretty much all the acting experience on the show.
Right.
And Cobb, his majority of his stuff was daytime soap operas.
Right. We checked out his IMDb. This guy, poor man's Emilio Estevez, is okay, but he's not great. If for plot armor humans on the Vulcans, if the Vulcans showed their true strength, then they would be way overpowered. The thing is, Sith-Dan, like, it wasn't me, but Sean Carter, when I asked him about it, because he was a guest on my show once, he gave me a really cool gift. He gave me a constellation. I show it on the show all the time, but he gave me a starship, a destroyed starship, which who could ask for more? And so when I had him on my show, like we watched some Star Trek together, and then like we had like a free ranging conversation about it. And I was like, "What? How do you?" Because he played a lot of baseball. I'm like, "Do you love Take Me Out to the Holodeck?" He's like, "I hate it. I think it's stupid." I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, "Why aren't the Vulcans throwing the ball 300 miles an hour? What kind of Vulcan coach lets that go?" Like he came at it from the point of view of someone who loved baseball. He's like, "I want to see a little more hustle out of my Vulcan team."
Keith Cobb's primary experience is, let's see here, 147 episodes of The Young and the Restless.
Yeah, he was on Y&R.
And that's why he left the show. He left Andromeda to do Young and the Restless.
He made the right choice. Probably still on there. What's with his like nicotine patch behind his ear? That little is that like a computer port?
Yeah, that's a data port.
I don't know if it's the actor or if it's what they tried to do or was like a little too cute, but rather than snarky, confident Kirk type, this guy just comes off as sort of a dick.
He done got nobody.
And we are off the rack in everything on this planet. We see a lot of what I call like the fool's gold of Amazon, where you see the leather jacket and it's really inexpensive, so you want to buy it, but then you realize it's goat leather and it can't get rained on, so it's not really a leather jacket at all.
Yeah.
And we also have a bunch of pleather jackets, but we didn't go after them and chop them up and make them futuristic-y. We just accepted it.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen that guy in other
But
shit.
half of the worlds they do go to are supposed to be post-apocalyptic, so it works sometimes.
They made some smart choices, right? Isn't this the aftermath of the fact that there has been a big war?
Yeah, they've spent the last 300 years infested by those Magog creatures and
Right.
basically enslaved by Nietzscheans.
Oh God. Right. They built in the low budget into their show, but sometimes they fail to even play down to that. That community college campus was an upsettingly bad set. They told the writer to watch Omega Glory, didn't they?
Yeah.
Look at these three words, germ, written larger than the rest. Tall words, proud words, we the people.
Yeah, that does sound suspicious. I guess that's a good way to put it. And he dug it up.
That one actor, that guy right there, looks familiar. But is it simply because he looks a little bit like Luke Perry?
He might have been a stunt double.
I don't know why they went with wand guns. They kind of suck.
No, they're pretty easy to make, and they had the benefit of having a melee mode. That was big for them.
So we've got enough money here to have a few extras, and we have some depth of field. We can pan the camera around a little bit and keep it looking real. But if you really look hard and look in the back, you can see like one of the things about every show is it's really hard to do peasants without crossing the line and to bring out your dead. And what we've done here is we've accidentally created some bring out your dead kind of space peasants. They sort of suck.
Yeah.
And there's sort of a lot of them. So they blew their big scene, sort of. See, look at that guy behind him with the kooky 1950s space helmet. That guy?
Oh yeah,
That's bad.
that was a very odd choice.
If I'm director, I'm not allowing that on my set. If I'm the director, I'm having a meltdown and a shouting fit at the costume department right then and there. I'm supposed to engage in a serious scene with this person. Costume such. I'm going to call that an incompetent decision. Actually, it's pretty hard to look the other way on how stupid that was.
Yeah, that's something they just got off the pile.
I think it's just they had too much stuff laying around that they didn't have anything to do with, and they're like, cobble it together into something. It'll be great, and they did it, and they could have just walked away from it, but they didn't.
Yeah.
This show's mistake was trying to have aliens rather than having, like, say, long separated factions of humans.
Well,
Because
a
everyone
lot of the
looks human
aliens are.
anyway.
A lot of the aliens are human.
You
The Nietzscheans are
totally
human.
look
The fish
the
people are
Nietzscheans
human.
what do you mean by that? When you say the
Nie-
Nietzscheans are human, they're just one colony of humans, like Philip K. Dick
they were
style. They have like
founded.
one belief system.
Nietzscheans were founded by humans who left Earth to start their own species, basically. And through 3,000 years of genetic engineering, They started their own offshoot.
That's so much more Philip K. Dick than it is Gene Roddenberry, but it's pretty Gene Roddenberry. That's a smart idea, by the way, because you don't have the money to make real aliens. What do you think of the decision that the captain would stand kind of like a game show host at this, like big synthesizer set here? He's got his own transporter console, but he has no chair. Conspicuous choice to be non-Star Trek like or legally advised?
It's more accurate than Star Trek. Because it's laid out more like an actual warship. And on an actual warship, the captain doesn't have an actual seat.
The Star Trek Starfleet's not supposed to be warships, but granted,
Yeah.
right? I guess what we're supposed to assume is these are ships of war that are enhanced with really great scientific equipment just because most people are going to go along.
Yeah. Most like the Earth is indeed becoming a shithole, especially in the U.S. and a few other areas. Unfortunately, yes, Stan. If they fast forward this 20 years, they could have filmed on location.
They got 2024 right in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
We missed the eugenics wars. That's the only thing they got wrong. It's a shame. What did they say? 370 billion people, 370 million people died in World War III. It's a shame that we didn't get to have that kind of fun. But whoa, that was a decently conceived weapon.
Yeah. Hey,
Like,
Gorilla.
like a reverse portal gun portals you away to nowhere.
They're ejecting their faster than light engines and basically scattering the fleet to the seven winds.
Oh, when your engine go, what do you mean? Their engines get ejected,
Instead
now they're
instead of blowing up, it's basically creating a portal and scattering the fleet all across space.
on a molecular level, or are they going to be okay
No,
wherever they end up?
they're intact. They're just doing it to scatter them so they're easy to hunt down.
Okay.
And Gorilla, you missed the entire first episode and most of this episode. They are having a rebellion on Earth, and they are attacking the Jungle Cat stuff.
I just want to say General Katzoff sounds like a fantastic guy.
Yeah, it's not a great name. That's why they call them the Dragons most of the time.
So close with that effect. The ships are interesting, but they're afraid to show them off too much because they're probably not that great as far as the CGI level. So they're moving a little too fast, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah, they can't afford to have it on too long.
They went with wowing us with a lot rather than letting us get a really good look at any one of them.
Yeah.
I like this guy. He's an admiral.
Yeah. He is sort of short for a Nietzsche, though.
I'm thinking he's going to be a worthy adversary.
If he ever shows up again.
That's true. The one thing he did show is he's pretty powerful and gives no F's about what Kevin Sorbo thinks. In fact, that's about all I really got off of him is like, yo, I'm my own dude.
Yeah. So Harper is screwed. Yeah, that's the you're screwed signal. That would be a good name for a Nietzschean pride, says Stan. Smart, because most of that plant wants to kill him.
This is rough as far as the level of production. It's rough.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they are stretching their budget per episode, even with this.
They're going a bit too far in a whole bunch of places. We've got biker jackets from our world, raincoats from our world. Everything's from our world. There's nothing really ironic or futuristic about their clothing. They really look like they're dressed for the year 2000. You know who that guy looks like? Now I realize who he looks like. He looks like David Marcus a little bit, doesn't he? From Wrath of Khan and Star Trek 3.
A little bit.
Especially in Star Trek 3, where he's starting to get ill and he has like the kind of like, especially like right before he gets killed, when he's looking like all messed up as the planet's dying, he's also like stressing out.
Yeah. That guy's name is Travis McDonald.
What did he go on to do? He was almost Dawson, right? He was almost Dawson.
Let's see here. After this, he did a bunch of one offs. He was in an episode of Dark Angel,
Remember that show?
The Da Vinci's Inquest.
No memory of that. Probably a cop
Oh, he
show.
is actually in Jeremiah. So he was on screen with Luke Perry.
Wow. Probably played a family member. Or they're really related and Luke Perry got him the job. And that's why he's got this job.
He's just credited as Guy, and they don't really go into depth on his character.
I just wondered, there would be more in the actor's bio. I don't know. Like, clearly, he didn't stick. If he stuck around, we don't know. Does his IMDb come crashing to a halt, or is he still out there in the wild?
The last work he did was Cold Pursuit in 2019.
God bless him. He's still out there. He worked for 30 years.
Yeah, a bunch of one-offs, minor movie roles.
Oh, he's definitely tough guy number 2 or cop number 2. He's perfect for either one. Prison guard or prisoner number 2.
Yeah. He was one of the initial bad guys in Taken.
There you go.
He was killed by Liam Neeson.
This guy has a great face. Like, as far as, like, it's got a lot of character. Like, he's good casting. And this guy just has such a weird resemblance to several different people that it's bizarre. He looks a little bit like Jesse Pinkman. He looks a little bit like Emilio Estevez, which means he also looks a little bit like Martin Sheen.
Has to butter her up because he's going to ask her to do something really screwed up.
It's so weird how some iterations of her have emotions and some don't.
Well, Harper took some liberties when he made the android.
The android has less personality, if I'm remembering. The android's the one that's always very flat and emotionless. The ship's computer has more personality.
Well, he tried to make her a little bit more docile so he had a chance. Unfortunately, it didn't work for him. Even women he makes aren't interested in him.
Right there, he looks a little bit like ugly Michael Douglas. It's the space cancer from Rise of Skywalker. Andromeda did it first.
Yep.
The only the only really good performance going on here is him and the blonde chick. Our third character is is also like a fifth wheel.
Yeah. Well, she's a guest star, so
Okay.
she's not really there for acting ability.
See, now the AI is emotionless again, so that's not consistent.
Well, she's delivering bad news.
Yeah, I guess sometimes it's more human than others. Video conferencing kind of existed at the time. It was so hard to film old TVs.
So they ended up winning after all. They didn't destroy the fleet, but they're going to have their hands full with the slave revolt. Okay. 2 pretty good episodes.
I agree. That was a good story.
Yeah. And story is unfortunately all they really had.
You know,
They had no budget.
we have right here an IP that is like essentially got no value, but it's like all potential. You could turn your back completely on the aesthetic of this show, pick up those story threads, and you really don't have that bad of a sci-fi show, in my opinion. You could have Kevin
Exactly.
Sorbo come back and reprise this character from like an admiral level, and no one else would need to come back. I mean, the
Yeah.
more the merrier, but you know what I mean?
Wasn't such the plan, but it worked out in the end. Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate they didn't have the budget to back up all those ideas. If they had anything close to the budget of, say, Voyager or DS9, they Probably could have competed with Voyager.
They couldn't afford to have any problems. So even though Majel Barrett was in charge, they made sure when they designed their ship that it was like a choice to make it look as little like a Starfleet ship as possible, because I think the Starfleet lawyers the Star Trek lawyers were rubbing their hands together, like, go ahead, we're like chomping at the bit to go after you and Babylon 5. That seems to have been the Star Trek outlook towards the competition during the 90s too. It's like, give
Yeah,
us an excuse. Give us an excuse. Go
yeah,
ahead
that
and
was
give us
always
an
their outlook.
excuse. Yeah, yeah, like we run sci-fi, come and take it. And what's sad is there were really good sci-fi writers, but they were maybe over competitive. It would have been better if Andromeda had done better, but it's not like Star Trek went around and broke the kneecaps of everybody who didn't want to give this show money. It was a failure on their part to accrue enough cash to have like ongoing believable aliens, a sustainable, believable, completely sustainable, believable cast. Like Voyager, for all its flaws, like you always believe pretty much every single regular character is who they say they are. Even someone like Chakotay, who has a lot of problems with the way they write him.
Yeah,
You know,
they
that
they do
show,
what they can, but even compared to like the Voyager crew, the actors on this show are horribly inexperienced.
I'm gonna say the Voyager actors, like it's a terrible character, but Ethan Phillips is very good as Neelix. Sometimes I even care about Neelix and have feelings about the Neelix character. And when they tone down his outfit to the slate gray outfit, when it's not as annoying and in your face, and some of the interactions later on between him and Tuvok, they start to get a couple of wins. But he was just so poorly conceived. Cass, like Jennifer Leanne, never overcomes the cringe of that character. It's too big of a mistake. This show doesn't have stupid mistakes like they did, but like Jennifer Leanne was at least a good enough actress to be believable as who she was. The captain in Voyager so inconsistent, but she came out
Yeah,
there and she like hit it out of the park as being who she was supposed to be that week. That was good acting by her in that sense. We can't blame Kate Mulgrew for an inconsistent character. Just like on this show, it's so cheap. I would have liked to have seen them just get even like 25% more money. I'm
yeah, that
surprised.
definitely would have helped.
You know what?
The
The
only
one
thing that
thing
got this show made in the first place was Kevin Sorbo signing on.
uh, it, we have probably not noticed people from the crew in frame simply because their costumes are so mundane.
Yeah,
They're not blowing anybody away with this production. But it is kind of fun, and the story is pretty good.
yeah. It is Fireworks Entertainment is the first
It's,
production company listed on here.
it's probably Majel
So
Barrett or Gene Roddenberry's very last production company, right? You got to figure they're going to lead with their biggest, or I guess maybe by this time the money contributors are her name's up there, so who knows? Yeah, I've known Firework Productions obviously didn't go forward to do a lot more stuff that we've heard of.
I know that Andromeda is one of their biggest things. They also have Mutant X. That's an old one. The Femme
Rings a
Nikita.
bell. Oh, La Femme Nikita. Okay, so that was Point of No Return original title. So it was a Point of No Return show using the licensing from the French movie.
Yeah, and Relic Hunter. So
That was
this
a
is
high
about,
quality show with a really hot chick.
well, it was a really
That,
hot
that,
chick. I don't know how high quality a show was.
the show mostly showed her in good in hot outfits. It was a great show. That and VIP succeeded in what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, I guess it is more of a TNA show than anything else.
That show showed off Tia Carrere. VIP showed off Pamela Anderson. We're glad both shows exist because they're very rewatchable, especially VIP. I hate to admit it.
Yeah, this studio, these guys seem to specialize in the knockoff stuff. They also did Highlander, The Raven, and RoboCop Prime Directives. So they're
Highlander
not
and
making the
Raven.
big time stuff. They're making the slight spinoff.
Actually, I'll give them credit. The Highlander show, it not only does it get a spin-off of its own, it makes it to a movie.
Oh no, I'm not. They did not do Highlander. They did Highlander, The Raven, which is a spinoff of the Highlander
Oh,
TV
they
show.
only had the licensing for the sequel show after the
Yeah.
movie. And that movie didn't do that well. It was people were surprised that movie only did okay, if it even did that well. Because we brought back Gerard Depardieu and we had Adrian Paul from Highlander, the series.
Yeah, Adrian Paul was in the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, but he was. It's the second Highlander movie that makes any sense is a movie of the show, and it's the only one that lines up with the first movie correctly, or in any way that makes sense.
Two canon. Those are the only two canon movies too. Everything else.
Let's face it, none of the other ones can make sense at all. We can't do anything with any of the other movies. The one with Mario Van Peebles might be able to be okay because it stands alone, but I think he's a space alien too in that one.
I think so.
Yeah, the Highlander, The Quickening is terrible.
Elizabeth Grayson. So it didn't even have Adrian Paul.
Well, no, yeah, that stripped away too much. Adrian Paul thought that he was going to go on to do stuff, and for all we know, he did because he was a European actor. We live in America. He could have been on the BBC all the time, making a lot of money. We don't know. He was considered like a hunky male model, and he did have the ability to kind of act, and he was decent with the swordsmanship, or they were good with the swordsmanship doubling. He got his Highlander movie. It was pretty good, but it just there had been too many bad Highlander movies for a good one to work, and they had waited a few too many years to try to pull that bullshit where they had that one scene where Connor McLeod and Heather are in town, and she looks better than him because she's really been taking care of herself. And Gerard Depardieu, I'm sorry, what's his name? Why am I blanking his name? Christopher Lambert. Lambert doesn't look so great. Christopher Lambert is looking terrible for 50. She's looking amazing for 50. And she's like, how come it is that you never age and I do? And it's like, whoa, baby, do you guys own a mirror?
Yeah, he was, especially the hairline wasn't going too well for him.
He had to wear a scarf. He was like, I think he got hurt on doing a stunt or something like that. Like something happened. He got old looking really fast because he had such a great physique young. He was Tarzan.
Were there a lot of sci-fi shows during the time taking up a lot of the money pie, or does the people making the show just not have the money? Yeah, money was a severe issue.
Money was the issue,
especially in the early 2000s, because they had loads and loads of competition. Because
there's a lot of stuff going on.
That Star Trek was on the way out. DS9 had already ended. Voyager everyone knew was going to be ending. So you got this.
Babylon 5 is birthing flame out sequels that can't even get into episode 3.
Yeah. They tried this. They had the Babylon 5 spinoff show.
There was two. There were two. There was another one. There was one that was so bad it was just the movie that they walked away from.
Yeah, Legend of the Rangers.
Is that and the ship? The weapon system was interesting, but it just didn't work. To operate the weapons of the ship, you yourself had to be a martial artist and go into the zero grav part of the ship and fight.
Yeah.
Which was cool, but they couldn't come up with enough intellectual reasons why it would work. It was less efficient than real controls. But that lady went on to be in like a detective show for years and years and years that then got like a seat. That show stays on. There's like 2 iterations of she goes on to a detective show where is it called Early Edition or something like that, where she gets the next day's newspaper and she can change fate for the better.
Oh yeah, that was actually an earlier show. They may have remade it though.
She also gets a TV show where she's like a weird detective. She's like a quirky female detective. And it's like she's in it for 2 or 3 seasons, and like they couldn't come to terms for another contract, and then they replace her with Battlestar Galactica Lady Mary McDonnell. It's just the same show. It goes on with the same name, and they just pretend like the other lady is. They don't pretend it's the same lady. They're just like, okay, now we also have a second weird lady that we're now going to talk to. And the other 2 stars of that show were like D-Day from Animal House and the lieutenant from Police Squad, the mean lieutenant, the one they hated, not the cool, not Howard Hessman, the dickbag lieutenant.
Yeah, I'm not even sure which actress that was. Trying to remember that.
She looked a lot like what's her face from Little House on the Prairie. She looked a lot like her. She looked like Melissa Gilbert, but she was shorter. She looked a lot like Missy Gilbert. She had a very, very turn of the century, like bunch of Botox stuff going on. She was pretty though. She was really pretty, and she could act. I think that she usually showed up with blonde or red hair. It was like interchangeable. I think her Babylon 5 character had red hair. But technically, that's not a Babylon 5 character. It's a Babylon 5 spin-off show about one warship. And it was horrible.
Yeah.
It just didn't work. Then Crusade was a little better, but I don't know what happened.
They canceled Crusade before it even aired.
I saw a few episodes. Well, what they're saying is since it was made, they showed there was never going to finish it, but they showed a few.
Yeah, 15 or 18 episodes. They all aired, but before it even premiered, Turner decided they weren't going to go forward with it.
They might have been correct because it was a lot like another show you and I watched. There were several things about it that were exactly like another show that you and I have watched together in the same fashion, but we didn't watch it on Andromeda night. It was a different show. Do you remember which show Crusade was kind of almost totally ripping off to the point where they could have gotten sued? The Earth has only 291 days to survive. It was fucking Star Blazers. Crusade was 100% Star Blazers. What happened? Asteroids crashed on Earth and caused massive disease. What happens at Star Blazers? Asteroids crash on Earth and cause massive radiation poisoning and denial of use of the surface. It was like so close. And they had the exact same amount of time to fight the Gamelons or wherever the fuck they were going in Crusade. It was too close. It was just like, this is Star Blazers.
Yeah. They had 5 years to find a cure to the rock plague.
Okay. It was a little less intense than Star Blazers, but it was the same story, right? It was like a nice mix of TOS and Star Blazers, the 5-year mission.
Yeah. Yeah, Earth is in danger. Gotta find some aliens to help out.
We've only got a couple of ships, but they're tough. Because his ship was cool. The problem with that one was, I don't know if it was the writing, like they created too many captains too fast for any of them to be different enough to be good, or if they didn't have the right actor. The guy was just kind of, he looked like a captain, but he wasn't handsome, and he didn't have a lot of screen presence, even though he was a decent actor.
Yeah, he's a good actor, but what the hell was his name anyway?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, and could the one person who hasn't hit like do it for my buddy? Hey, Wes Cagle, what's going on? We're just doing a little follow up to our Andromeda watch, and we're sort of saying that comparing it to other shows from the time, and as is wont to come up, Babylon 5 does come up, and we talked about how there's a couple of sequel Babylon 5 shows. Tonight in Andromeda, we saw some stories that were good, but man, we're tanking so bad on costumes that in the few moments where we did have extras, we just should have tried less hard is the only way to put it, huh?
That may have helped. Oh, wow. That was Gary Cole as the captain in Crusade.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, he's absolutely miscast. Absolutely miscast. He's a really, really, really good actor. He's Mike Brady as well in the Brady Bunch movies. He's a perfect actor. He's a good actor. He's a very funny actor. He's not meant to do drama.
Yeah,
He's not meant to. He's meant to be like Leslie Nielsen style acting from the end of Leslie Nielsen's career, not the dramatic acting from earlier.
yeah. I don't know why he tried to be action hero captain.
They hired him, you know what I
He's a
mean?
comedy guy.
The
Yeah,
thing
because
is, he was having a big few
he works
years.
for WB.
Yeah, he was having a big few years. To be fair, he has the acting chops to pull it off. Like he didn't tear me out of the show. It was just that like if that was Battlestar Galactica, he would have been good as like Colonel Ty. He's not an Adama. He's not a Kirk. He's not even a Kevin Sorbo. What is it? Harper?
Hunt. Dylan Hunt.
Dylan Hunt. He's not even Dylan Hunt.
Harper's the little guy.
Although I'd say this, Dylan Hunt was still better than both heroes from Earth Final Conflict. Although Earth Final Conflict sometimes was the better show. Those two shows, it was weird. We had two Roddenberry knockoffs on two knockoff networks competing against each other. And both of them seemed to turn into their Roddenberryness really hard to the point where it becomes Philip K. Dickism. Because what was Gene Roddenberry but Philip K. Dick, but with a much, much more functional personality and a much, much more efficient story writing ability is the only way I could put it. I don't know how familiar you are with Philip K. Dick stuff.
Not overly.
If you've seen his movies, you know less about him than if you haven't, because the movies have never even been anything like the books.
Yeah, I know the books are really involved compared to the movies.
There's always a game of chance in every book. Always. There's always a game of chance in every book. Like in Do Androids Dream of Electronic Sheep, the game of chance is simply that they take the tests to see if they're human. And by the way, in the book, he takes the test and he's human. He has another Blade Runner give it to him. It's accurate. He's human. In the book.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the movie had a director who wasn't exactly controllable. To put it nicely.
He may not have gone far enough in a few places, but the thing is, while I totally agree with Doomcock about him being a replicant and that was always the intent, I don't know how sure of himself Ridley Scott was about doing it. I think he had great hesitation because if we go back through time and reverse watch the cuts of Blade Runner, what would happen when we got back to theatric release? It would be up in the air. It would be as good. It's 60-40 against in the first movie, wouldn't you say? I mean, he's a Blade Runner for sure, but they're trying to make you feel like it's only a remote chance. Like they want you to doubt, not be. And that was, in
because
my
that's the way the studio wanted it.
In my opinion, that had more value.
Yeah.
What did you think of wondering as opposed to knowing?
Scott was insistent that he be a replicant.
And Harrison Ford was insistent that he be human.
Harrison was on the human side, and so was the studio. So they basically had to pull Ridley Scott back from the edge of blatantly saying that he was a replicant. That's why every every cut after that, you get a little bit more of that. Oh, he's a replicant.
Well, I don't know if we have the unicorn in the theatrical release. We have two unicorns. So. We have two unicorns. One of them is in every movie. Two of them are in two movies, is the way to put it. He sees that unicorn on his doorstep, I think, in every cut. But only one or two cuts later on does he have the dream with the unicorn. Isn't that the way it goes? The dream with the unicorn is in later, or is it only in one release? The problem is, if you and I went back to the year,
releases where the dream comes in.
That's what I wanted to point out. As you said, one of. If you and I went to review this movie, and you went in your town and I went in mine, and we had StreamYards back then, and we met up like this, you and I would be reviewing this movie like we did with Deadpool, where we had the point by point what happened in the movie, and we were pretty good with it. Um, we deserved a better fate with that movie review because we did a great job. I think like we had that story down. But like if we had gone and done the same thing with this with Blade Runner, you'd be like, "That's not what happened," and we would have been like, dude, you're wrong. Like, there's no what the fuck are you talking about?" It's like the unicorn from Legend ran through the scene. It's like, I think Germ. I think you've gone a bit too far in a few places.
Yeah.
I think stylistically it was designed to be that way.
Yeah, that's really the problem with rewatching Blade Runner now. There's so many different little tweaks that they've made over the years that you can't get a consistency.
And if you're the TV network showing Blade Runner, you play less and less and less for the older cuts than you do for the newer ones. So your chances of seeing the definitive cut get lower and lower as more and more cuts emerge. Because what you do is now you've got a bunch of different ways to watch Blade Runner. A couple of them might have aged out, but for the most part, you have like two initial releases with two slightly different endings. One has narration, one doesn't, right? Both movies have
As I
narration, but
recall.
one has additional narration at the end, correct? The happy
I
ending
can't
narration with the
remember
footage.
which one was the original release at this point.
No, there's
I
two original
know.
releases. There's two original releases. They released two endings. They released two endings. They're the same, but they're slightly different. In I
Yeah.
think Europe, in Europe, what happens is they leave and we see the scene cut from The Shining in reverse where they run it backwards. It's the beginning of The Shining where they zoom in on the car and they take it from the medium and go far away from the car so we can't see what kind of car it is or get any hint on the technology as they ride through the snow through the mountains. They're going to Canada, as Philip K. Dick books always have. In every Philip K. Dick book, things are a little bit better in Canada, or so we've heard, because Canada wasn't a big enough player to get messed up in the World War that got everything going. Or in the world of Blade Runner, Canada is too far north for the radioactive dust that blows across the earth.
Yeah. The only two endings I can really remember now is the unicorn, and I'm not sure if it's from the book or is one of the movie cuts. Uh, they're going to be chasing down Harrison Ford.
This is the best I can come up with, is that when we saw the movie, this is what we got. We got Harrison dreaming of whatever, falling asleep while drunk and waking up. And in one cut of the movie, there's the unicorn from the movie Legend is just running around, and we don't know what the fuck's going on while some saxophone music is playing, and it couldn't be weirder. And that he then like he just wakes up, and then when he leaves his apartment, in some cuts he finds the unicorn, in other cuts he doesn't find the unicorn. They just pick it up from them driving away. Both cuts end with them driving through the mountains as the camera pulls further away. But one cut has so-called happy ending narration. And so if you saw one version of the movie, he has the dream, they leave, he doesn't find anything, and you hear, Terrell had said she was different. No inception date. That's happy ending narration. And in another one, the music plays, he sees the unicorn, and they drive away, and he just looks into the camera, 1,000-yard stare from behind the wheel, and then we pull away again. No narration at the end, but both cuts have narration. Like they both have that thing like, my boss Bryant was the kind of man who used to call black people the N-word. But of course they use the word.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I actually saw that movie.
It's been a long time since any of us saw the theatric release because it's a bit suppressed. It's been a while since I saw Blade Runner outright. Um, I'm gonna say that it's actually not as good of a movie as the legend around it because there's so much legend around it now.
Yeah.
You would think it always made sense and it was always good and it was always one movie. This is three movies that slowly coalesced into one. The reason why the Blade Runner we have now is really good is because it had the ultimate beta test, 4 or 5 theatric releases that were different.
Yeah, he just couldn't make up his mind, apparently.
But think about it. Every time he re-released the movie, he went with like heavily audience reaction and fan theory stuff. Less and less of, you know what I mean? Just like
Yeah.
it was just like I like that he gave the people what they wanted. Like that's like I guess what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, he gives what people what they wanted, but I think more importantly for him, it's what he wanted.
And then in the
I think
sequel,
he feels justified making those changes because it was popular.
I feel that he was justified in making the changes too. He had to be happy doing it. I feel that there was a better way to go, a middle ground, because only people who saw the first version of the movie that was around for the longest without being changed until the final cut, which has now remained unchanged for like 6 years. This might be the longest lived version of Blade Runner, right? This now is taking records, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It's been a while
It
since
really is.
they've made any changes.
The 1990 video release is the first, like, the TV release is different one. When they show it on ABC, it's different. There's some stuff that they find to fill in scenes that they couldn't show on TV. They find some other stuff. Because that whole thing
Yeah, I
where he
think so.
kills Laura, her final moments, she's like naked and stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to remember. As I said, it's been so long since I think the last time I actually saw it was going into 2049.
2049, I have decided, is an unacceptable stub of a story that starts and stops but does not begin or end. It has no beginning, it starts. It has no ending, it stops. It's a bad movie. Um it's an unacceptably bad movie. And I after I saw it the first time, I was okay with it because I assumed that there would be a follow-up. But the fact that that director was okay with going out, what was it, the third weekend, and telling people that if they went out and saw the movie, he would finish the story. But of course, the story was obviously unfinished, thereby trolling everyone who'd seen it without realizing it. And he's done the same thing with both Dune movies, hasn't he? Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like there was going to be another part of that because it
He
ends
has
with
kept saying it. He does that every time now.
yeah,
He shows up week 3 and says, if you go see my movie and keep it enough people see it, I'll finish the story. Like he's just been doing that every movie now. It's part of his publicity.
yeah. I guess he wants a franchise.
He keeps trying to get a franchise. It seems like he has it with Dune. He's walking that story forward so slowly.
Yeah, well, maybe it'll work out for him this time. People seem to
People
like
are,
Dune a little bit.
yeah, it's for what I think we have to be careful about saying it worked because whatever we think about him, pipe cleaner boy Timothy Chalamet puts people in theater seats. Like, I hate to say this, but he's a real movie star.
I guess so.
He's also not as weird as it looks because some of those really preposterous outfits we've seen him with and stuff is because he got like a modeling contract. So like he looks like an idiot in that shirt made of diamonds, but he got paid to wear it for a photo shoot. When I've seen him show up for his premieres, he's basically like jeans, shoes, like a t-shirt and a blazer kind of guy. Like he seems normal that way. When he's in charge of his look, he's only looked normal.
Yeah.
It's when he's paid to look certain ways that he looks like they like to dress him up and make him look like a superwoman, like superwomanly. Some of those outfits are ridiculous, but he's also like kind of like willowy and thin like a chick. Like there's comparisons to be made as far as the way his physique is to young Leonardo DiCaprio. Like he's really thin, he's really effeminate in his build, but both of those people were, Leo DiCaprio proved it over time that he was a real movie star. We were scoffing at him for a while, right?
Well,
Maybe
yeah,
The Quick and
considering
the
how he
Dead.
started.
The Quick and the Dead might have been the first time I said he seems like he's okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Started to show that he had some acting potential. But yeah, with Denis Villeneuve and his Dune movies, Timothy Chalamet, it just seems to be the Wonka movie works too, and that one could have gone either way. It seems to me that like whatever we might think, one, the ladies like him, and two, he fills the movie theater seats. He might. The fact that he has a modeling contract means that somebody thinks he's handsome. And I just say this: I'd rather wake up looking like him than Adam Driver tomorrow, wouldn't you? Like if you're Timothy Chalamet, you can start eating and working out. What do you do if you're Adam Driver?
Yeah.
He's got the weirdest physique. Wide boy there.
Yeah, it really doesn't. You'd think he was the skinny one, but I don't know. The head doesn't match the rest of them.
I think it's the injury he got. Adam Driver. He flipped an ATV. You didn't hear about that? Before
No,
he
I
ever
didn't know
was an
about
actor. Okay, so Adam Driver, the reason why he was able to deliver a good performance and the reason he was able to almost make that terrible piece of shit character work, and the reason why he's okay is that he only became an actor after he tried to be a soldier, and right before he shipped out, he flipped an ATV over while he was. Before you go to fight and be deployed for a year, they send you somewhere where you can just like go skiing and relax and have like a low stress time for a couple of weeks before they send you there. And like that's also what they try to do when they bring you back, from what I understand. So he was at like a low stress deployment base after he finished training for a couple of weeks. It was like a reward before you go over there. And so like he was just, ATVing, and he flipped the ATV over and he broke his collarbone and his solar plexus. So when you think about how his physique is kind of strange, yet he's not fat, yet he's wide and weird and girthsome. The idea that he kind of got squished by an ATV now coming into play, does it make a little more sense how he looks? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be one explanation.
When we see him shirtless as Kylo Ren, he looks weird.
Yeah.
And that came out of nowhere, too. That was weird as hell. That was the weirdest Star Wars moment to that moment. Although that movie was breaking weirdness records every minute that it existed on screen while we were at the theater the first time.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget now.
Well, I keep trying to forget it.
Let's try to forget it by asking you, what do you predict next week on Andromeda? How close are we to the end of the run for these people?
The end of the good run. It's sometime in season 3 where we get to the end of the good stuff, unfortunately.
This has been a fairly quality show. They made enough cost-saving decisions.
Probably about a half season worth left of quality.
Because they had quality music, how many of the cheaper looking and cheaper rendered scenes work a lot better? Because we had good music. No one has a soul today, or music has been too bad for too long for people to realize that. But
yeah, it definitely helps.
Look at an episode of modern Star Wars and watch any given 20 minutes of a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, this definitely competes better than modern Star Wars.
but also like this has a self-awareness of when it's boring. Like for instance, Star Wars is pretty boring when Anakin takes the motorcycle across the Dune Sea before he kills the sand people. You know what I mean? When we spend 6 or 7 minutes, well, I guess 2 or 3 minutes establishing how far he goes because he can censor from so far away, and how far he's willing to go. Like when we show him just basically riding that hover cycle across 3 or 4 different types of Tatooine, that's some of John Williams' best work.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it's at the end of this season when things start to fray. And it'll be in the middle of season 3 where Tyr actually leaves the show.
That's going to be too bad for the show, and that's probably going to be the death blow.
Yeah, that's the one major. They're on the edge so much that one relatively big thing happens, there's no recovery, and unfortunately, that's the one relatively big thing. Young and the Restless come along, dump a dump truck of money in his lap, and he goes.
And by a dump truck, we mean he finally got to make $1,000 a week. He still worked pretty hard for his dough. Would be my guess. It's just that he knew that he was going to work every week. And whereas this show was like, will we have a show next week? And Sorbo was just like, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. But we'll all find out together when we get here tomorrow morning if we have jobs. And that has to be a hell of a way to live your life.
Yeah.
So you got to feel a little bit for the people making Andromeda. They're doing a decent story. It could be picked up. I don't know if it got popular enough. It also exists in this era of TV where people were willing to watch TV of really low quality and still enjoy it. Family Matters might be the example of how bad TV could get and still be successful.
Yeah, but Family Matters had, well, Urkel for one.
And some quality episodes.
Quality episodes, good story. Okay, cast.
The main character, who's not Urkel's father, he's just his neighbor. The cop is in 2 of the Lethal Weapon Die Hard movies, right? 1 and 2.
Yeah, he is in 1 and 2.
He's a real actor. He's all right. He can act. A couple of quality episodes here and there, not always, but here and there. But I mean, that was Family Matters did not have a believable set. Like, you want to see failed Family Matters, watch Charles in Charge. That looks like people putting on a high school play.
Yeah.
Charles in Charge is a disaster. It doesn't make it to believability.
Charles in Charge.
Some of the chicks on it were hot in the second iteration with Nicole Eggert, who ends up on Baywatch, right? I mean, and we have hot guest stars. I mean, Charles in Charge, like Charles and Willie Ames date. We see hot chicks on it, and the show's just always on. It's on right after Saved by the Bell. It's just there. The show just exists. How that show existed, I don't know. Like, I always say, Charles in Charge best episode is whatever happened between seasons 1 and 2, where the families get swapped out completely, but the grandpa and Charles and Willie Ames stayed the same. That would be a great episode.
More than I know about it.
The first season, we have one group of families, and it's not working out. So at the end of season 1, the only people who come back are Willie Ames, Charles himself, what the hell's his name? Chachi. Baio. Scott Baio, Willie Ames, and the guy who plays Grandpa. They come back. The mom is the sister of the mom from Family Ties. It's like her sister. Looks just like her.
Oh.
They throw in like a mother-in-law character who's just John Travolta's mother, becomes like Charles's mother. Like, she shows up in some shit. She's in some episodes. She looks just like John Travolta. It's crazy. And Grandpa just like goes on as Grandpa, but with a new family, and nothing explained. And that's the cast that goes on for like 5 seasons. Crazy, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes. I've always said to people, I want to see that episode that happens between seasons where they're just like, all right, Willie, Charles, like grandpa, like quarterback of the whole thing. We're gonna take out the family. We're gonna hire some street people to play them. Well, I've had it with the family. We're just gonna hire some people to cosplay them the way we want. Life can be peaceful around here.
Yeah, that would be an interesting way to go about it. If they ever want to do a Charles in Charge reunion.
I think everybody like sued everybody on that one. I'm racking my brain. Was the mother from Charles and Charles the sister of the mother from Family Ties, or the sister of the mother from the one with Kirk Cameron? Which name eludes me? Family Ties is Michael J. Fox.
Growing
Then
pains.
there's a right Growing Pains, and that's the one. That's where we get Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Thank you, Growing
So
Pains.
it's Kirk Cameron's fault that we got Leonardo DiCaprio.
What have I always told you about people with two first names?
Serial
Gotta be
killers.
real careful. Yeah, real careful with them. Gotta be real careful.
But I think we'll wrap it up there. T, you have anything you want to shout out before we go?
Let's see. Today is Monday, so no, wait, it's Tuesday. You know what? It's Tuesday. I have nothing on my schedule right now until I'll probably be around. Like somehow Teague will return on Friday afternoon, and as available before that, we've been like doing so much Star Trek lately that like my mind thinks that maybe I need to do a day of streaming something else, monster movie, military movie, anything, put some other part of my brain to work. Taking up the Star Trek responsibility was huge, but I guess we'll be back. It's on Saturday at 9:30 with the next episode of Enterprise, which is a really good one called Dear Doctor.
Yeah. It's going to be a very good
We
episode.
we come out of one lackluster, one terrible, and another lackluster episode. And then the last episode, we were like, it was starting to stabilize and get less bad. And then this episode is good again. So that's the deal with Enterprise through 13 episodes. The first 9 out of the gate, which includes, only 8 stories because the first one's 2 episodes. The first nine episodes, I think everybody was given A's, and people called us overly generous. But now we had our first universal D. We had one episode that was just terrible. We had one episode that we had to say was so saccharine that it was the episode Cold Front tries to do too much, and the episode Fortunate Son right before that was kind of bad. It was maybe even bad. That one was the universal D, right? What was Cold Front? Yeah, both of them did pretty bad.
The other one was like C, low C, I believe.
Last week we tried another new move. We lost half our concurrence, but it still made a difference. You should be prepared for us to warp out and return. Because of the things that go on YouTube on Saturday, we need to leave and come back, or we'll be bot swarmed. We've gone so long without that happening that we're going to keep this up for a while, and we're going to keep being secret and safe for a while until they forget about us, because we've been doing very special things to keep the bots at bay. Like, for instance, hey, Germ, did you know that people say a lot of good things about the show Star Trek Lower Decks?
Yeah, I hear it's the best Star Trek has made in the last 20 years.
Yes, I have also heard these same things about quality show Lower Decks. So if we keep doing the right things and applying the right bomb to our problem, maybe the people who have sort of sent us a message in a bottle saying that they might be the mountain people, might be the ones who are doing this to us, maybe they have bigger fish to fry if we just forget about the fact that New Trek is out there. But here's the thing. We might not have to worry about New Trek. It's very much in doubt. I guess we're in overtime now. I should just wrap it up and say we'll be back on Saturday at 9:30.
Okay, sounds good. That's for this channel. We'll be back Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific for a Nerd Night Roundtable. And Saturday morning for Saturday morning cartoons. The poll for that's up right now. We have a 3-way tie going between Rocko's Modern Life, Teen Wolf, and Yu-Gi-Oh! So be sure to go vote before Friday night, where I'll release the results on Gorilla's Walton's panel.
Teen Wolf sounds fun. Kind of.
Yeah, I completely forgot about the cartoon. They made that into a cartoon until I saw it on Pluto.
A lot of people won Darwin Awards trying to copy the big scene from that movie.
Yeah. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. We'll see you next time.